Freeze.
Hippity-doo.
I'm a robot, not a refrigerator.
I'm a robot, not a refrigerator. Is anybody else thinking of a certain beloved doctor from another show? Also, purely practical here. If you're using a natural language interface to control a robot, be careful what you say. Freeze? Yeah, dude, that's not in my action set. Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Krenning. I have a PhD in robotics. I teach machine learning, and I am going to talk about some of the robotics and AI in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Very excited about this. We're going to talk about Marvin and Eddie.
I think you ought to know I'm feeling very depressed.
The first thing we hear from Marvin is, I think you ought to know, I'm feeling very depressed. By the way, in Alan Rickman's voice, which just, yes, Alan Rickman, oh, he's gone too soon. Man, that guy is amazing.
Well, we have something that should take your mind off things.
It won't work. I have an exceptionally large mind.
Yeah, we know, but we need you to go down to the number 2 entry bay and pick up our stowaways and bring them up here.
Just that? I won't enjoy it.
Yeah, well, that's life.
Okay. So Marvin is depressed. He is very, very depressed. And you have to think about, why would you create a depressed robot if that's what they did. So Marvin always expresses sadness and negative emotions, and this evokes negative responses from people, right? Like in that scene, they weren't happy. They weren't like, oh, Marvin, it's so great to see you. They're like, oh, there's something I don't want to do, so you do it. He's evoking negative responses from people. He's not really evoking empathy, right? Like, they don't care more about Marvin because he's unhappy. And so that's, why would you make a robot always evoke negative emotions? One thing to think about is, does Marvin have a choice for his employment? If he does not have a choice for employment, then that's pretty messed up, and I could see a lot of the negative emotion there. If he was forced to work for them or do whatever they said, yeah, that gets into some bad things right there. But one thing to think about is, does Marvin actually feel depressed, or was he programmed to act that way? This is a really big difference, right? Because you can create a robot and have it act out certain emotions, but maybe those emotions aren't really felt internally. And internally, that's that's something that we might associate with like a different level of sentience, not just knowing a specific piece of information, but having internal thoughts, like reacting to it. How does it make you feel, right? If Marvin is actually feeling depressed, then that's one thing. If he was programmed to always act that way, I would have words with the designer. That seems like a not a good idea. No.
Life. Don't talk to me about life.
Oh. I'm sorry. Okay, so happy doors. Happy doors. We have happy doors now. What impact would it have if we introduced more, happiness or whimsy into our everyday lives? Just think about that. Like, would you have a good reaction, a bad reaction? Would it increase our overall level of happiness? Just think about that. If we took a lot of different opportunities to add in some happiness or whimsy, what could be the result? One thing I want to talk about is anthropomorphizing, because it's a thing in AI and robotics. It really is. Anthropomorphizing everything, including doors, can have varied ramifications, to put it lightly. One is a bad reaction, right? I mean, people can look at the ship or at the doors and say, they're lying. They're lying to me. They're feigning emotion that they don't really feel. They're doing it to try to get me to feel a certain way. I'm feeling manipulated. This is emotional manipulation. This, creepy, soulless AI is trying to emotionally manipulate me. I don't like that. And so certain types of anthropomorphism can actually cause people to lose trust in AI and robotics. Another thing to think about is, do you think that people would have more, less, or equal empathy if everything around them exhibited emotions, especially if everything expressed feigned emotions? What do you think? How might that change a person's empathy as they developed through childhood? Let me know what you think.
I think that door just sighed.
Ghastly, isn't it? All the doors in this spaceship have been programmed to have a cheerful and sunny disposition. Anyway, come on. I've been ordered to take you up to the bridge. Ah, please yourselves. Here I am, brain the size of a planet, and they ask me to take you up to the bridge. Call that job satisfaction, because I don't.
Job satisfaction. Yeah. So if Marvin is actually sentient, which, I for the sake of the movie, I want to say that he is. If Marvin is sentient, then job satisfaction matters, right? Like it matters. Whether or not Marvin can leave his job is important. Whether you deny a sentient being rights and freedoms is important. We're not there yet in terms of technology. But I also love Marvin's response here. He greets them with a gun, but then he realizes it's kind of ridiculous and drops the pretense. Where are they gonna go? They're hitchhikers surrounded by the vacuum of space. They're not going anywhere alive anyway. I do think it's a bit idiotic for the people involved here, like to bring in, you don't bring unknown people into the spacecraft control room. Like, keep them where they are, talk with them, see what their intentions are, see if they have weapons. Don't just bring them into the control room. Like, what? They need Worf. Like, they need somebody in charge of security.
You can thank the Sirius Cybernetics Corporation for building robots with GPP.
What's GPP?
Genuine people personalities. I'm a personality prototype. You can tell, can't you?
GPP. So he was instilled with a genuine people personality. So there are a few ways to include emotions in AI, just in that whole design process. I'm only going to talk about a few of them. So one is for an AI to recognize a human's emotions. This can have a lot of really good, possible applications. So there's this guy, Paul Ekman, who researched emotions. He did some fascinating work with facial expressions. He found that people manifest emotions, in the same basic way, regardless of, culture or anything. And those basic discrete emotions, he treated them as discrete anyway, are fear, anger, sadness, disgust, joy, and surprise. I think this is cool because it unites all genders, races, cultures. You know, there's a show on how this could theoretically be applied. It's called Lie to Me. Check it out. An AI agent that could recognize human emotions could be very beneficial. You know, it could help therapists, for example. Another way to kind of include emotion in AI, maybe another step beyond the first one, is an AI that responds to a human's emotions. This is just, it's a hallmark of all basic human interaction. But it can be seen as emotional manipulation, especially when you're working with robots or AI. You know, context is key, and you can't necessarily assume that human-human interaction will generalize to human-robot interaction. And then we have kind of a different path with emotion where the AI is actually exhibiting emotion. And that happens with both Marvin and Eddie. So they're both acting out emotion. So Marvin exhibits negative emotions, sadness, depression, frustration, negative emotions always, all the time. Eddie exhibits emotion, positive emotion, all the time. Both of these are not ideal for interacting with humans.
Oh, for heaven's sake. I brought the aliens. Don't thank me or anything.
Okay, so, now I just want to talk about the physical appearance of a robot. It's something that in robotics we call morphology. In linguistics, morphology means something completely different, but in robotics, morphology is the physical appearance of the robot. It impacts a ton of human-agent interaction, right? So Marvin is incredibly intelligent and could probably kill everyone many times over. And yet, is anyone like instinctively afraid of Marvin? He has what we call a caricatured physical appearance. You know, his head is really large. He doesn't have a mouth. He has eyes, but they're not human-like, but we can still look at it and tell that they're eyes. He has a humanoid-ish body, but its proportions are more like a toddler. The short legs make him seem less of a threat, not as mobile. Even the depressed personality makes Marvin seem less of a threat. You're not worried that he's going to take over the spacecraft and kill you. It would be too much effort, and why bother? You know? How a robot is designed, including physical appearance and how it interacts with people, has a huge impact on whether or not people see it as a threat. And this is completely regardless of what, you know, its AI, like what its mind is actually capable of. Don't read a book by its cover, but people totally do.
Freeze! Freeze? I'm a robot, not a refrigerator.
I'm a robot, not a refrigerator. Is anybody else thinking of a certain beloved doctor from another show? Also, purely practical here. If you're using a natural language interface to control a robot, be careful what you say. Freeze? Yeah, dude, that's not in my action set.
Talking to you, Giggles.
Oh, why do I bother?
Zephyr. Ford? Is that you? Ford! Break the Beetlejuice!
I've seen it. It's rubbish.
Ford?
Marvin.
I've been talking to the ship's computer.
And?
It hates me. I'd make a suggestion, but you wouldn't listen. No one ever does.
All right, this isn't an idea that has any merit at all, but Marvin, can you give me a hand?
Give me a hand. Ha ha, very funny. How am I supposed to drive this pod with one arm, stupid human?
Got your arm.
How considerate. Right then, all those of you lucky enough to have two arms, hold tight. Incredible. It's even worse than I thought it would be.
As a token of our appreciation, we hope you will enjoy the 2 thermonuclear missiles we've just sent to converge with your craft.
Enjoy the missiles.
To ensure ongoing quality of service, your death may be monitored for training purposes. Thank you.
Okay, if you're talking about communication between like lots of different races, and you have like this level of like kind of sarcasm mixed with disdain in there, and you're sending missiles to people, like what that's a recipe for disaster of, you know, interstellar relations. Oops, I accidentally like blew up somebody. What? Not good for communication.
Guys, I'm delighted to tell you that there are 2 thermonuclear missiles heading right for us. If you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and take evasive action.
I'm delighted to tell you that there are 2 missiles headed straight for us.
There seems to be something jamming my guidance system.
Huh?
Impact minus 45 seconds.
That is not a time to be happy. That is not a time to be happy. And so it can make you feel like either this AI that is in charge of the spacecraft doesn't care anything about you, or, you know, life doesn't see that it's an important thing, which causes negative feelings, or that it doesn't really feel emotions at all and is feigning them and therefore lying to you. Also not great, right? You gotta be careful how you design this stuff.
This will all end in tears. I just know it.
Come on, just stop!
I told you this would all end in tears.
Did you?
Okay, improper settings for emotions or for expressing emotions. We see that a lot with Marvin and Eddie. So Eddie joyfully says that there is a fleet of warships that have caught up to them or something like that. And another time he's saying, you know, very, very happily, there are 2 missiles coming at us. Isn't it great? You know, like he's so happy in situations where it's inappropriate, right? And it can have a really big impact because it makes people think there's this AI in control of the entire ship, and it doesn't care if we live or die. It seems happy about the prospect of bad things happening. You know, it has a big impact. Even something that is, you know, always happy in the wrong situation, not good. Marvin constantly expresses his unhappiness rather than helping people solve problems. It leads to frustration. It leads to Arthur being incredibly upset at one point. Like, it's not helpful. This is not how you want to design a robot. This is not how you want to design a robot to interact. If it's going to express emotions, don't do this. No, absolutely not.
This is how it's all going to end, is it? Hey, me? Alone on a dead planet with a manically depressed robot.
You think you've got problems? What are you supposed to do if you are a manically depressed robot?
Excuse me.
Marvin doesn't care. She's like, whatever.
Thanks a lot for leaving me behind. Though I can't say I blame you.
Mr. President, we're here for your protection.
Oh, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Fire.
I don't see what all the fuss is about. Kogons are the worst marksmen in the galaxy. Ooh.
Ceasefire.
Marvin. Oh.
Now I've got a headache.
It's sad, you know. Is it that he shows emotions? Is it that he's annoying sometimes? Is it that he kind of looks like a child in proportion? Is it that he seems sentient? It's sad. You know, it's sad when he's killed. Is it because he only seemed to experience negative emotions before he died? You know, just because something isn't biological doesn't mean it doesn't matter. He's alive!
Oh, I feel so depressed.
I can't face another day. What's the point?
Marvin, you saved our lives.
I know. Wretched, isn't it?
Let's talk about emotional manipulation. The scene was done in a very humorous way. You're supposed to feel happy. You know, a beloved character came back from what we thought was death. All the enemies were laid low in a manner that did not include bloodshed. Okay. That seems awesome. But a robot that has the capability to emotionally manipulate like a small army into a catatonic state of inaction, and no one's freaked out? Like, is it because Marvin is adorable? No one's saying like, move over, Terminator. Marvin is actually the freakiest of the sci-fi robots. Like, how much of how you respond to AI and robots, or really anything in the world around you, is because of physical appearance rather than actions? Just something to think about.
So long, and thanks for all the fish. So sad that it should come to this. We tried to warn you.
Okay, so this song is about the dolphins, right? The dolphins trying to warn the humans of the upcoming destruction of Earth. Important thing. First of all, if the dolphins really were that intelligent, they could find a way to communicate just fine. Let's put that aside. Let's put everything involving, all the facts of the dolphins aside. Creating a spacecraft for dolphins would be pretty difficult. Like, it's not entry-level spacecraft design. They have to be in water all the time. Like, electronics, they don't appreciate water. And just in terms of control, so I was in attitude control. I controlled how the Cassini spacecraft would rotate, right? And if you rotate, especially if you start rotating quickly or moving quickly, you have to account for things like fuel slosh in the propellant tanks. Like, it matters. If there's liquid on board, you have to you have to mathematically take account of it. And a lot of times a mission will actually just not, like, the spacecraft will not move that quickly, because if you're moving slowly enough, then you don't really have to take fuel slosh into account as much as possible. Now imagine the entire spacecraft is filled with water. I think there's some interesting things that you could actually do if a spacecraft were filled with water. It is not spacecraft design 101. Like, that's an extra little barrier just to make things more difficult, as if it weren't difficult enough already. Launching would be difficult. Like, not the easiest thing. We could do it. All right, I had fun. I hope you had fun. Marvin and Eddie are interesting. I like Marvin more than I should, but I think it would be really annoying to have him with you constantly, because this is not how you design HRI. This is like a case of how not to how not to do it. But I had fun. I hope you had fun. Let me know what you think in the comments.